a little bit more money to get it done. Now, you say the pecking order, right? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
He was never 3. And the reason he wasn't 3 is because Dan Hurley was able to come in and bump him down to 4. So
I don't know what he was.
He was never 3.
And 1 and 2 were never going to happen.
And 1 and 2
that is a
were
fact.
never going to happen.
That is such a fact.
It was never going to happen. So when they came up with the plan of trying to find a head coach, they had to usher Darvin Ham out of the building immediately. Because the 2 superstars, for whatever it's worth, they never said it. I'm just looking at body language as an athlete and facial expression on the players in quotes after the season.
Yeah, especially the one Rachel pointed out from Anthony. Go ahead.
Yeah, not just from Anthony, but also where they start talking about he wasn't prepared, he come in late, all of those. You start looking at that, it's like, oh, okay. That is a player's move more so than an owner front office move. And what I mean by that is once the players start to sour on, they have to, as you know, Rachel, move on from Darvin Ham. They can't try to make nice. It just won't happen because you gotta cater to your superstar players. Now, whether or not the superstar player said, I'm out of here, I want to get traded, and I'm not signing back unless you get rid of him. That's not what I'm saying. I don't need to verbally say anything. They can see the same things I see, which is, you're not challenging that? We not playing defense? Oh, and they sit back and they go, okay, we got to do something about this. And they didn't have a plan in place at the time. They did not
have a plan.
That was the biggest issue that I had with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka. Now, you look at some of the other first-time head coaches, Rachel, you've been covering this league for a long time. Whether it was Jason Kidd that failed early on to a degree. But since then, he's learned because he's been on benches. He's been on benches. I think Isaiah Thomas was a first-time head coach that really never had any real experience as an assistant. It happens, right? Are the Lakers willing to wait, though, it out and let the growing pains happen and then see in year 3 of JJ's career where he is at, opposed to if all of a sudden you look up and he wins, what did we finish, the 8th seed this year? And all of a sudden he's the 6th seed. Are we happy and said, oh, there's improvement? Because they're going to spin it that way if that's the case.
Right.
You should be better because of LeBron James and AD.
Look, there is a chance he is a buffo box office success. We have seen it before. Doc Rivers came in with no coaching experience and was named Coach of the Year in his rookie season as a head coach. It is possible. Larry Bird came in, did an excellent job. Right? And then we've seen it again. Steve Kerr, obviously he had inherited a team that was already very well coached and very talented.
Thanks to Mark Jackson.
But yes, but he did it. It could have been a disaster, and he didn't. So there is absolutely precedent that JJ Redick could come in here and do a great job. It's possible. JJ, in the way he's different from Darvin Ham and some of the other coaches the Lakers have had, is he is super into analytics. He is super into very precise, this is what we need to do. Sort of like, you know, how Boston was like, we're going to shoot threes all the time because this is how it matches our personnel and these are the statistics and these are the odds. JJ is going to be doing stuff like that. He also is maniacal about preparation. I have been around him both as a player, as a media person. He is going to be, you talk about complaints about Darvin coming late or not being prepared or Anthony Davis saying that he's not prepared. None of that's going to happen with JJ Redick. JJ Redick is a prep guy, and he will spend this summer up until training camp preparing, and every game he will come in prepared. However, the reason this could go completely the other way is that you can only prepare for the situations you know about. And as a first-time head coach, you don't know what you don't know. And when you look at, they say, oh, we're going to surround him with elite staff. How much elite staff is even out there to get hired? Some of the names that I've heard are very unlikely, right? Jared Dudley. He's already an assistant coach in Dallas.
Love Jared Dudley.
Right. And by the way, he's super popular in the Lakers locker room. But Dallas wants to keep him.
He's in a really good spot.
And that's a team that just went to the NBA Finals.
Correct.
Sam Cassell is a name that's one of the first names that gets bandied about.
From Sam Cassell, why am I going to the Lakers?
I'm just saying, Sam Cassell just won an NBA title with Boston. They're favorites to win. So he's not coming. So I do think that Scotty Brooks, there are Brett Brown, there are coaches out there that could help JJ. But it's not like there's like a ton of them sitting around.
Brett Brown, as much as he's done, would he leave Pop to come to the...
Well, that's the thing.
With Wimby and I don't know. Would you leave to be the lead assistant for the Lakers? I don't know.
Honestly, the biggest harbinger of JJ's success is going to be what happens with the roster in the next 6 weeks. because you can say what you want about Darvin Ham and his rotations. He didn't have the right guys to put in his rotations in the first place. And I know what you're saying about Rob Pelinka, but that was a failure this past season.
Well, this past season. But I mean, if you just look at the body of work and some of the things that he was able to do as a first-time guy.
He's got to do better, right?
Yeah.
He has some trade assets, but not as many trade assets as a lot of other teams around the league. And he has needs that match a lot of other teams around the league. They need a two-way wing. In fact, they could use two of them. So do a lot of other teams. So there will be competition for those guys. Yeah. They need a big man who can sort of push Anthony Davis to the fore, which is where his preferred likes to play. And we'll talk later about what JJ can do for Anthony Davis. Well, there's other teams who want that. Phoenix could use a quality big man. So I just think there's some variables with, we're going to get him elite coaching staff. We're going to get him the best roster. we don't know.
Okay. I'm going to defend Rob Pelinka on one count. Mm-hmm. These four players barely played last year.
They got hurt.
Listen, Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent and Christian Wood and Cam Reddish barely played last year. Okay, if you put those four in there, you got a much better chance, to me, especially starting with your defender and Jared Vanderbilt.
Probably a little different.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
It just would. Now, back to Rob Pelinka's track record is part and parcel of this stat, and that is the Lakers have finished better than 7th in the West only one time in the last 9 years. Only once in 9 years better than 7th in the West, and that was when you finished first in the pandemic year and went and won the Mickey Mouse Championship.
With a coach that you then fired 2 years ago.
That's correct. But this is almost like Cowboy-esque here, because you keep saying they're the Lakers, but then they don't back it up. And the Cowboys they haven't backed it up for like 30 years.
Well,
but that's a whole nother
going to be one of the biggest problems that JJ faces as a head coach. And I know we talked about some of the other greats going on to be first-time head coaches, but they weren't coaching the Lakers.
Yeah.
The seat is already having flames underneath it. Okay, this is already hot. When he's walking into the bit, because it's not, again, they can spin in any type of way they would like if they move from 8 to 7 or 7 to 6, they can spin it and say, look, he's done a great job for us. They can cap you out and make you feel a certain way. But in the end, you can see exactly what it is. All right. And so now, one of the things, like Rachel was saying, in about 6 weeks, that's what it's going to tell you. What does this roster look like? Yeah. What do we make any significant trades? Do we bring in some other guys from an asset standpoint? I don't care about the draft because I don't even know who's in the draft. But in the end, what is he starting October off with?
All right, I got it. This is where I also feel sorry for him going forward. He's in a tough spot because of what appear to be factions that are split in the Lakers front office. And my first example of that was, you said you had a good source, which I completely believe and trust, inside the Lakers, who told you, I don't know, a month ago, there's
2 months almost.
Huh? Yeah,
2 months, yeah.
There's no way JJ is going to get this job because whoever your source is believed with all his or her heart and soul, there's no way JJ Redick is going to coach this team, right? Okay, and I'm not doubting your source. I'm just, that's faction versus faction. Somebody inside is saying, seriously? And then somebody else said, yeah. Well, and then somebody else said, well, maybe that's all we're left with here is that's our best option,
and
right?
that is exactly... Yeah. That is exactly the way it went.
Okay.
Again, he wasn't the choice. They offered somebody else the job.
Okay.
Think about it. They offered somebody else the job.
And they did offer that college coach with no NBA experience about $12 million a year. You said it wasn't nearly enough, and I got you, but it was still about $12 million a year, and they just gave JJ reportedly about $8 million a year for 4 years instead of 6 years. Still good money, but again, how's JJ feeling about, he's got to know he wasn't first choice and he didn't get offered Dan Hurley money, right?
I think he's okay.
I was going to say, he's got player money.
I think he's fine.
He has a media empire that can continue on without him because it's not just his podcast, which I assume he won't do anymore. Yeah. He's got other podcasts and other things coming in. And he wanted this job really badly. Yeah. That has been obvious. He would like to be a head coach. This is a fast track to get to do it, and it's one of the most elite programs that you can have in the country.
It is that.
Of course, I think he will be just fine with his $8 million.
And there's one thing I am sure about JJ Redick. He will be huge box office for this team because man, I'm on the edge of my seat. How's it going to work? Is it going to flame out immediately?